No, it's all right. I have a mic. Well, that's recording. All right. For those of you who are moderators, did you all get the email requesting that you watch some videos? I know some folks. Okay. We'll go over that in some detail today. But don't fear. The first time you guys do it, we will be with you. So if it seems like there's a lot of steps, don't worry about that. Are there any general questions before we get started? Just on operations or anything? Okay, so let's just get going. We have the new tabulators, which if you worked last year, you're familiar with. New-ish looking ballots. Same thing, if you worked last year, you're familiar with those. And the moderator's return has been modified a little bit here and there to account for whatever changes were made by the state. So we're constantly revising it. We have the same voter lookup interface that we had last year. A few changes to it as well, just because we want to make sure that if someone's registered, we want to make sure it looks up people who are registered at the state level and not the municipal level. For those of you who may have noticed, our poll worker portal that we spent so much time working to use last year has been eliminated. They decided to upgrade the software, which made it unusable for us. So sorry for the confusion. Please bear with us while we're doing this. We are just going back to good old-fashioned texts through a different mechanism. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your patience. One of the big changes this year, especially in early voting, is that our ballots will now be submitted by the elector into a tabulator. In previous years, all of the ballots were folded, they were put into an envelope, and then they were stored and counted on election day. They will still, the results will still only be available on election day after the polls close, but the tabulator will maintain the results throughout the early voting period. I'm going to go into a little more detail about that later. The sort of upstream results of that are that you may notice sitting over here are all of our ballot distribution boxes. Since the ballots aren't folded anymore, they take up a little more space. This will probably be shifted down a little bit once we set it up. It looked like it was a little too close to the check-in station. It also means that we're not going to be handing a folded ballot out to someone. They're not going to be putting it in an envelope. We're just going to be sort of issuing a ballot just like we do at a polling location. We'll go into that in a little more detail. Also, as a result, the checkers process has changed. They've changed the CVRS a little bit, and we'll go into that in a couple of minutes. So the pieces that you have to fill out in the CVRS, the state system, have changed a little bit. At a high level, what's changed here is where we used to check someone in and issue them a ballot, and then the tabulator tenders would scan that ballot in as a return, it's now one process. So the ballot is issued and returned at the same time in the CVRS, and then the tabulator actually registers that there is an anonymous ballot issued, brought back. I'll go into some details there. Sorry, what? Was there a question? I'm sorry. Is there a question somewhere? Okay.
Excuse me, repeat what you just said. Repeat what you said about that last, about the tabulator.
So in other words, if you issue 100, if you check 100 people in, it used to be the CVRS would also track that 100 ballots were returned. Now we're going to check 100 people in, and we have to look at the tabulator to see if 100 ballots have gone through. So our end-of-night reconciliation that we were doing, if some of you have done it in the past, we'd go through all the envelopes and count through all the envelopes. We don't have to do that anymore. But we do have to reconcile what the check-in numbers look like against what the tabulator is reporting as how many ballots it received. So it's much more like the polling locations, actually. We do that at the polling locations.
But you're also saying that you check in, you issue, and it's received at the same time, according to the system?
Yeah, the CVRS is still quirky and it's still on its way out. So what the CVRS is doing is basically saying, all in one, you've checked in and you've been issued a ballot as far as it's concerned. Then you really physically get a ballot over here, and then you submit it to the tabulator.
Right.
So it's way more like a polling location now, whereas you have a 3-point check at the end of the night. You say, how many people checked in, how many ballots were actually issued, and how many ballots were received by the tabulator. And it's a good segue, actually, the last change here. The state has required that everyone still sign a log who is doing early voting. They've left this largely up to the municipalities as to how this will be implemented, so we have decided to implement it in a very similar fashion to what we've been doing in the past. So we are going to have a card like this issued to each elector. We'll put a sticker on it just like we did. They'll sign it and they will exchange it for a ballot. And I'll walk through that in a minute. Okay, right. So, all right, so let's move on.
I want to run off.
Oh, sure.
First, thank you all for coming. I'm going to leave for a few minutes. I've got to run off some moderator handbooks for Monday. Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Hope you filled out all your forms. I'm going to run back to the office. I've got to run off some moderator handbooks, training materials on Monday. Well, nobody else is using the printer. And I'll be right back once I get it set up and running. And, welcome to the part of the situation that they changed everything on a little bit. Mostly the polling place is just like it was. Mostly the rest of the stuff they didn't change. This is where with the new tabulators, all sorts of little things change. There's only really 2 other things to keep in mind. They've got a new rule about guns and masked people not coming into polling places, which hopefully you will never see anyway. But it's a good addition to all that. And the curbside voting area has to be marked now with signs, which means we have to put signs. Where do they have to go? Well, curbside voting, they go to the street. So now we need traffic codes and ways to put signs on them. Lots of fun for us. But it'll just be more outside. So thank you. I'll be back. Matt's got this. And unless you or somebody else has another question. Did we invite it? How are we doing on, do we know how many people are supposed to be coming Monday?
I don't know, how many people?
Moderators for recertification. One, a couple of others.
Okay, yeah, so if you, how many? 5 so far? Yeah, if you need moderators recertification Monday, reach out to Stuart or Diana and we can get you on the list. Don't let your moderators recertification expire. If you can do it this year, go ahead and do it. If you're on year 3.
Yeah, with the year, we'll do it again after the primary, of course. But if you're on year 3, you could still work, but it's a new tabulator. You'd be better off recertifying a year early. And, you attend the class, so you have to do it anyway. So, and since we've only got 5, if some friend of yours is, there still would be room if there's somebody else who needs it. Yes?
How do you become a moderator?
First you have to take the class, pass the test. It's a 3-hour class. It's somewhat complicated. But you're welcome.
Sign up for the Monday class.
Yeah, if you want to come on
Start
Monday,
there.
come on Monday.
Okay.
Sign up and show up. It's Monday afternoon. Okay? Yeah. And, there may be some others, somebody just let them know if they slip through the cracks. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to be back shortly. But we got it. Matt even wrote this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll just start with like how the day unfolds for those. So I see some new faces here. So we'll just start with some of the basics. Please try and arrive about a half an hour before the polls open. That gives us time to swear everybody in. It gives us time to debrief anybody on any little changes that have taken place. I do not put it past the state to change the regulations and the guidelines in the middle of early voting. It has happened in the past. We can also update people on any little problems that we're finding so we can tweak things of that matter. You will need to get sworn in when you arrive. Sign your timesheet with your moderator. That is not the same thing that you have to sign when you're sworn in. It's a different document, so just be aware that you do have to sign two things when you arrive. And that's basically it for these two, yeah, okay. So I'll start with each role. I'm going to go over each role during this. In a lot of the polling location training, we do each role as a single training event. Since this is sort of a large scale event, I'm going to go through each role. The first person that an elector will see is a demonstrator. A demonstrator welcomes electors. They ask if their information has changed. A lot of electors show up, they say they've moved, they've changed their name, they may have gotten married, so they have to do a name change. So ask if their information has changed so that they can be routed to the assistant registrar as opposed to directly to a checker. For those of you who are new, there's a big table right here, and the assistant registrars tend to be on this side. So if someone does need to do an address change, route them to the assistant registrar first. If not, you can send them right to the checker. We make sure that they're also a registered member of either the Republican or the Democratic Party. There's 2 elections taking place this year. Democrats and Republicans are both having primaries. A lot of times, folks will show up, they'll see there's voting, and it turns out they're a member of some other party or they're unaffiliated. So we can ask them right off the bat, you know, are you a member of one of these parties? It keeps them from having to stand in line. And then we want to keep the line moving where possible. So we want to make sure that, you know, if one checker's available, let's route some people to that other checker. If one checker, if everybody's held up, keep the line, you know, kind of concise so that people don't group up around different places. For this election, I don't expect a particularly long line. In November, it would we have seen lines develop down the hallway, and just I'm sorry?
And go to the other side.
And go to the other side, exactly. Lines get very long. When we get to the presidential election, that will be a concern. Keep people off the stairs. Sometimes people, you know, if they're standing on stairs, they tend to get a little stumbly. You know, maybe, you know, back people up. As a demonstrator, please be aware that there is a ramp, a wheelchair accessible ramp in the back. So if somebody is coming down the hallway and they have a walker or they have a wheelchair, you know, you can direct them down the hall and they can use the wheelchair accessible ramp. If someone comes in and they've never voted before, over in this area, about where Tyler is sitting, is the demonstrator's station. There's going to be a sample ballot, and you can show them how to complete a ballot. All right? You can mention to them that they fill in the bubble. They don't circle a name or put a check box. Fill in the bubble. When you're doing that, please be wary that it's helpful not to point to a particular candidate, as some people will think that you're leading them to vote for a particular candidate. You can also always tell them to read the instructions. These ballots have instructions on both sides. They have a sort of high-level instructions right on the front, and then detailed instructions in English and Spanish on the back. So if there's any questions, you can do that. There's also a pop-up sign with instructions on it that they can read, and you are allowed to read it to them, but not interpret it. So that's the overview of what a demonstrator kind of does. Moving on to the checkers. How many people are new here?
New to early voting?
Or new to elections in general? Okay, so does everyone know what a checker does, what a ballot clerk does? Is there anyone who doesn't know what those terms are? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. So the checker's responsibilities, we're moving on from the demonstrator to the checker. So this is the person that checks IDs to make sure the ID is valid, and also make sure that the person states their name and address so that we can check them in to vote. Once we've checked them in, we're going to go through the process of registering their ballot in the CVRS, which is the state system, and I'll walk through that in a second. And we're going to print a little label, and we're going to put it on the affidavit, okay, and hand it to the elector to sign. So that's what the checker does in a nutshell. So the first step of that whole process is checking identification. If someone is wishing to receive a ballot, this is the rules for what type of identification they must have. It's the right side of this page. They need a social security card or any pre-printed form of identification that shows name and address, name and signature, or name and photograph. As a checker, you have to check their ID. The process goes, hi, I'm Matthew Lane, I'd like to get a ballot. I give you my ID, the checker checks to make sure that the ID matches this, okay? If they don't have an ID, yet they say, oh, I'm the person on the list, they can fill out Form ED-681, and the moderator will help them with that. So if there's any issues there, send them to the moderator. Okay. On this page, we also see there's another type of identification. This is really more for assistant registrars. If someone is coming in to change their address or change anything about their registration, the identification requirements are slightly different. So they need a copy of a current photo identification that shows name and address, or a copy of a utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck, government document that shows the name and address. So if you're an assistant registrar, we call that the left side of this page. So if anyone's changing their ID, were they registering, which they will not be doing during this election, that's the type of ID they would be required. Yes?
If it changes the date of birth, because what's in there is wrong.
Yes.
Is that something at this room we can handle, or is that, do you know?
That is yeah, that is a change you can make. So you fill it.
We are.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go through that in a couple of scenarios. But yes, you can make a change,
Yeah,
with the exception of a party change.
right.
Okay, you can also not change someone's address from another municipality into Norwalk in this election.
Right.
So, because those are new registrations. For a primary, there's no same-day registration.
Right.
So I'm going to go into a little more detail on that in a minute.
You're gonna get to the Form 681, not for,
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. Yeah.
You said for primary, you still same-day registration, but what if they come one day, make a change, can they vote the next day?
If they make a change to their registration, like an approved type of change, like I moved across the street down to a different part of, they can vote the same day.
Okay.
But they can't register in same-day registration. Now, hold on a second. Is there still a strange exception for absentee processing where they can register in our office and then get an absentee ballot?
we're not, we gotta look into exactly what they can do. And if they're changing from unaffiliated, but then there is a delay.
Oh, okay.
That's the next day.
So if,
Next day business, they won't get to you that way.
right, if they're changing from unaffiliated to a major party, talk to your moderator, call the registrars. Because it's 3 months unless you were unaffiliated. It's a weird, stay tuned, talk to the registrars. If that occurs, somebody comes in and says, I'm unaffiliated.
So if they're not in the computer, they can't do it.
Right.
You would have to see us, and yeah, they may not be able to at all, there may be a one-day delay, but they'll be on your computer.
Right. So Well said. If they're not in the computer, you can send them to the registrar's office. They may be able to fill out a form, they may be able to get something done, and then maybe get an absentee ballot, but you won't process that here.
If someone thinks they're registered as a Democrat or Republican and they come in, they believe that they are, they come in to check and they are not, what shows?
I would escalate that to the office. Yeah, because there's a lot of okay, so let me just repeat the question because that comes up a lot. Someone comes in and says, I was a Democrat, and I am a Democrat, but why is it saying I can't vote because of my privilege date? And I'm going to kind of go over privilege date in a second. What happens in some cases is someone has gone to the DMV and they've changed their address and so forth, and by mistake they changed it to like unaffiliated. Right. And then they get the letter in the mail and they go, oh, wait, no, I want to be a Democrat. So they send it back and they change back to Democrat. In the computer, that shows as a party change, as a multi-party change. And I believe the statute is that you cannot cast a ballot. Is that correct, Stuart?
That's right, but again, send those people to us.
Send those people, yeah.
You can't change their party down here,
Right.
Yeah.
okay? That's the simple rule. Only go with the rest of them. Too many nuances to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so who gets to vote?
Registered Democrats and registered Republicans this year.
There is no same day.
There's
or
no same-day registration.
absentee.
Absentee ballots are being processed right now, yeah.
No, I'm saying if they change,
If they change,
they're registered, but they're changing from one
Party.
party to another,
Send them to us. You can't do that here.
but they'll still be able to vote then.
if they change their party today, they can't vote. If they change their party today, they cannot vote. What we've seen a lot of people do is cast a ballot and then change their party like the next day after the election. So if they really want to change parties, they could do that. But if they change their party, they can't change their party today to a major party or between major parties. If you're unaffiliated,
Any other party say.
yeah, right, okay.
Let us handle it. Don't worry about it.
You had a question?
Yeah, any pre-printed form of ID, it's mostly driver's license, right? that they're-
In practice, it's mostly driver's licenses, yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people show up with they just bought a house, so they'll show up with like, you know, their mortgage documents. I mean, you've probably seen, Russell, you've probably seen a lot of your phone bill or some credit card or something like that.
Social security card doesn't have, picture or anything.
Correct, but it's a social security card, so.
Statute says they can use it.
Okay.
Picture wouldn't do much good if I got one.
Okay. We're going to get into a few more details about this in a bit, but so anyway, just back to what the checkers actually do, because I think we're getting off track here. So just an overview, I think I kind of went into this. Electors submit their ballots directly to the tabulator. There's no envelopes. Checkers will use this early voting log entry attestation that we've shown you, and I encourage you to come up and look at these things. They look very much like the old envelopes. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it signed with the checker, or do they sign it when they go?
They sign it with the ballot clerk. So we have those large tables, and they'll have a signing station. Yeah, okay. Ballots are returned in the CVRS. When I say returned, the computer thinks they're returned because that's the way the system works. It's a quirk of it. And then ballot clerks exchange this for a ballot, and we'll go into the end of night reconciliation where you can either count the difference of ballots or you can just count all the attestations that you received. You'll probably end up doing both. Pardon me. So we're still,
You said you can count the number of ballots. Who has those white papers?
I'll show you exactly what happens with those. Basically, they end up with where the ballots are. Elections and early voting, just like we have in previous years, which gives us a search screen. We recommend searching people by birth date where possible. If someone's given you a driver's license, the birth date's on there. Most people do provide a driver's license. So search by birth date. If you search by last name, if you search by last name and first name, these work, you can do that. But if you search for someone's last name like Lane, you're going to find a lot more Lanes in there. And it's very likely you'll choose the wrong one from the list. If you search by birth date, it's more likely that when you're looking at Matthew Lane, the 4 or 5 people who have my same birth date, you can find Matthew Lane on the list. Okay. So here's a list of people. We're going to select the person from the list that is the person standing in front of us. Do not just hit select, because by default, the first person on the list is selected. We need to find the person that's on the list. Okay. If we just hit select, we've just selected possibly the wrong elector. And we want to make sure that doesn't happen, because otherwise we're going to start checking in the wrong person. We've seen that happen a few times. So we have, we've now hit select. We've selected the elector. The few things to note here is that it is the right person. You have their ID in your hand. Make sure that this is the right person, that the address is right. Please make sure the address is right. Please make sure that the name is right. And then we also want to make sure that they are enrolled in one of the major parties, Democrat or Republican, because those are the 2 elections that we're running this time. The good news is, since we're running a 2-party election, the CVRS will actually tell you if someone is trying to vote who is part of another party. It'll do what's called a hard stop. It'll go, hey, you can't issue a ballot to this person.
It'll do that.
It will do that this year. In previous years, it didn't do it because it really only restricts to Democrats and Republicans, even if you're not running an election for the Republicans or the Democrats. So it was on us to check it. This year, since we're running full 13 precincts on both sides, it happens to work.
So we'll still be able to find them if they're not there, but.
You can look someone up who's unaffiliated or independent or working parties, or working families, but it'll stop you from issuing them a ballot, saying, okay. So just like before, once you've confirmed that this is the person, you've got to insert a ballot. And there's a button that says insert. So we search for them, we found them, and then we're going to insert a ballot. That's like issuing a ballot to them. It says generate labels right here. You might think, I just want to generate a label, but you haven't created a ballot yet. Now, they've made some changes to the CVRS to make it a little bit better to remove old ballots. But in the past, if you just hit generate labels and then click print, you would generate a label for last year's election. We don't want that. So please hit insert so that we are generating the label, generating the ballot for the individual. So here's what we're presented with now. We're now asking the system to generate a ballot in the computer system, sort of a digital ballot. As you can see, there's 3 sections here, separated by these gray lines. The top section has to be filled out. That's the information about the issuing process of the ballot. The good news is, once you've filled it out once, it will remember all of the settings. So where you have to fill out, election date is 8/11/26. It's a primary. The ballot code is regular. Yeah. Early voting location is Norwalk City Hall. Once you've filled all of this out, it will remember it from one elector to the next.
Ballot type.
Ballot type. Give me a second on that. So that is going to be early voting. Thank you for picking that up. That is going to be early voting or same-day registration. There's no same-day registration. So it's only early voting. Thanks for bringing that up. The date issued is the date, today's date versus the election date. Again, the first time you log in the morning, the date issued may be yesterday, so please check it, but once you've corrected it, it'll remember. So yeah, thanks for picking that up, Russell. The ballot type would be early voting. It may have the option of same-day registration. Please don't pick it. I didn't write the software. I'm just trying to give everybody a heads up of what not to do, even though I think it would allow you to.
And what are the ballot codes, or is it always going to be regular?
It's going to be regular. It's going to be regular. Yeah. Okay, so the middle section is a mailing address. That doesn't apply to us because we're not mailing anybody an address. If you were doing absentee ballot processing, that would apply. And then here's sort of the big change. In the past, this third section was actually filled in over by the tabulator tenders. When they scanned in a ballot, it would automatically fill all this in and update the registration. Sorry, update the ballot to say, I've received it back. Now we're filling this out when we initially issue the label to them. So it'll say ballot cast, date returned, again, today's date, and the time returned. Okay, so that's the big change. We're sort of issuing and returning. And if you're thinking, hey, this doesn't really make sense because we're issuing and returning, but sorry, this system is about 20 years old at this point, and it wasn't designed for any of this, and this is how it works. So sorry.
Yeah, what about that glitch we ran into?
Oh, yeah, Beth, go ahead. Hold on a second, Barbara.
So in the past, when they went over there, if for some reason, they forgot to hit insert, it would catch that they had the wrong
Yep.
date on their label. Is there any safeguard for
Nope.
that now?
Nope, good point. So Beth just asked the question of, we could issue a envelope, the ballot clerk would issue a ballot, they would vote the ballot, put the ballot in the envelope, and then when they got over to the ballot receptacle guardian, they would scan it in, and we had like a paper trail.
But the label was wrong.
But if the label was wrong, if the checker made a mistake, we had like some way to go, wait, let's go fix it. Now, just like at the polling locations, once you're issued a ballot, it's anonymous. There's no way to track it. We do have reports in the CVRS, so we can still sort of see like who checked in today, what changes were made. But it's really on the ballot clerks to make sure that you get the dates right. And if you're a moderator, please ensure that the dates are right. We'll try and sort this out. I'm sure there's going to be some challenges in the first few days. As always, and as always, I think I've been saying this for the last 2 years, this whole system is being replaced. And I know I've been saying that for the last 2 years, and we're told it's going to happen in December. I think we were told 4 times it was going to change. Yes, Barbara?
So we could catch the error at the ballot clerk station, right?
Probably will be, because last year's precincts, names are different. So there'd be no matching number. It would say A2 or
Right.
C3 or something like that, and that doesn't, the numbers are different.
So that's really.
So it'd have to be for
probably
2 years.
the easiest way to catch it.
We're probably, no one's done this before. This is all new for everybody in the entire state. So, here's I'll give you a heads up what's going to happen here. So you're going to take this card that's issued by the checker that has that information on it, and we're going to exchange it for a ballot. And we're going to put this in the back and give them a ballot. It's up to the ballot clerks to make sure that the numbers that are on this that say 14303 Democrat is 14303 Democrat, right? I expect at the end of the night when something's +1, -1, or something like that, we can go through and look at all these and go, wait, this is 14303, it's in the 14302 pile.
Or even Republican.
Yeah, we're going to get to making sure we issue the right ballot. You may have noticed we've invested in a whole different system so that we can identify the ballots, making sure that we issue the right ballots. But I don't want to get sidetracked. Let's continue on this. Are there any other questions about the technology of checking someone in? Obviously, on the first day, we're going to be here. For those of you who've done it in the past, we'll be here. We'll work through it. We don't think this is going to be a huge turnout, so it'll be slow enough where we can take our time to do it right. We always want to do it right. We never want to rush. So, Stuart and I will be here on day 1, day 2, day 3, well, every day pretty much. We'll probably get a vacation by December. Okay. Once we've filled out this form correctly, we're going to hit the update button. Again, it says generate labels. We don't want to do that yet because we haven't actually created the ballot. If we hit generate labels, it would let us generate a label from last year. Okay, I think they may have made a couple of changes to restrict that, so you may not see a label unless you've generated it for this election. But there were still changes being made last I looked at it. Update. So insert, search, insert, update. Generate. Once we've updated it, now we can generate a label. And we're going to want to pick the ballot for the election that we just created. Again, I think this screen may have changed last I looked at it. It may not show, if you see here, you see all the past elections. I think it restricts those to this election now. So if that's the case, some of those little glitches that we ran into in the last 2 years may have been resolved. Any questions about that process? Oh, and that's the...
Look at that picture, man.
Yeah, it's a terrible picture, isn't it? I'm sorry, Stuart.
That's a Dymo labeler that you're familiar with. And these are the same labels as before.
Yeah.
Would we like to
Yeah.
have the number on it bigger so it's easier to
Yeah.
see? Of course we would.
Okay. All right, so what's going to happen is you print out the label, the same label we've used for years with our happy Dymo labelers, and it says right on this thing, place label here. Okay, it's in English and Spanish. We place the label there, and then say, thank you for voting, please proceed to the ballot clerk station. And they will go to the ballot clerk station and sign it. Okay? So that's sort of the checker's job in a nutshell. Are there any questions about the checker's job before we move on to the next one? No? Okay, good. Okay, so ballot clerk, that's our next position. Before the polls open, the ballot clerks have to ensure that the number of ballots that were issued to them is the same as was left for them the night before. In the first day, we will tell you, hey, we've given you 20 ballots for each precinct, 10 ballots for each precinct, 50 ballots for each precinct. We have however many are in each of these boxes, we'll tell you. And it's your job to ensure that that number is correct. We're then going to issue ballots to the electors as they arrive that match their affidavit. The two things that are super important on this piece of paper are the precinct and the party. There are 5 things that make a ballot unique, right? So it's the city, the election date, the party, the precinct, and the ballot style. 2 of them are really important, are the ones that you're probably going to have to run, that you're going to be wrangling with. Obviously, I highly doubt that you're going to get a ballot, that you're going to find a ballot in here from another city. That's highly unlikely. It's also highly unlikely that you're going to find a ballot in here from a previous election. If you did, you'd probably see it right away. We're not going to issue you any ballots into this room that are not early voting ballots. That's the ballot style. But for those of you wondering, there's ballot styles. There's a different ballot style for absentee. There's a different ballot style for in-person votes, for the polling locations. The ones that we have here, excuse me, Stuart, are early voting ballots. And they have like an orange salmon bar across the top of them. All of these ballots have an orange salmon bar across the top of them. If you see a ballot that has a yellow bar across it, that's an absentee ballot. If for some reason you go, oh, I'm running out of ballots for Republican 13701, and somebody hands you a pile of ballots with a yellow bar, nope, hand it back. If you see a bar, if you don't see a bar up there, nope, hand it back. All of these have an orange bar across the top of them. Where did these come from? 43C. Okay. So we have to make sure we give them the right ballot. And the two things that we really need to pay attention to are the party and the precinct. Okay. The precinct from the CVRS, as we know, is, in this case, it's 14303. So that's 14303 Democrat. So we'd find 14303 Democrat. Oh, so that's Republican? Thank you. 143, they're paying attention. I love it. This is great. We take 14303 Democrat, and we're going to take one ballot, and we're going to take this card, and we're going to put it behind this index card here, in the back. Sure. Sure. Thank you, Jessica. They have to sign it. Exactly. I thought I went over that. Did I not? Okay. Yeah, they have to sign on the. Before they get a ballot, and you'll have pens at there. Okay, so yes, thank you for reminding me. They sign this, and then we do the exchange. We'll take the ballot from the front, and we put the affidavit in the back, behind this card. And it says right on here, ballots in front, affidavits in back. Okay. Seem okay? This is. No one in the state's done this before, so this seems like, okay, and, okay, so.
Don't add any new ballots into there, the numbers will still stay the same if you count up the cards empty.
So the theory is, and Russell's right on the point on this one, if you issue 5 ballots, you should have 5 cards at the end of the night, with the exception of spoiled ballots and, abandoned ballots. But yeah. So at the end of the night, you should be able to count your cards or count your ballots, and you have to count your ballots anyway at the end of the night. So we have another, you can count the cards as well. And so, yes. So any questions about that process? Because that's,
We get the ballot clerks get the spoiled or abandoned ballots back.
yes. So you will get your, I think I have a section on that. Okay. Yes, so spoiled and abandoned ballots, if somebody does spoil a ballot, you'll change it out. Please be aware that you have to check the ballot to make sure you replace it with the exact same ballot. Okay? Here it's kind of obvious because if somebody walks up to you with a ballot, you're going to look, well, which ballot is it? And you give them the exact same kind. At the polling locations, it's a little bit different. But please make sure that when you do an exchange, you replace it. There will be an envelope for spoiled ballots. There will be an envelope for abandoned ballots. Put all of those ballots in there so you can account for them at the end of the night. Okay. Oh, there we are. Instructs electors to sign their envelope. I knew I'd get to it eventually. You're right. It's not an envelope. Everybody's beating me up here today. Okay. So that was from last time. I'm sorry.
The first page still says 20.
Looks like one though. Just
Does the first page say 2025? Wow. Stuart, you didn't pick up the date. It was wrong. Okay, I will correct this. And I'll make it 2026, so next year it'll be wrong again. Okay, so after the election is closed, the ballot clerks complete the ballot clerk's worksheet. I believe all of you have picked up a moderator's return. There's a big double page in there for the ballot clerk's worksheet. It's two-sided because we have to do it for both the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a long, it looks like a big, arduous document. It's really probably not going to be that bad. But it's exactly the same as it was last year. But as was brought up, we don't just have to go on how many ballots we've issued. We can also, we have the data from how many affidavits we have to figure out how many ballots we should have handed out. So get started with that. The plus side, if you're a ballot clerk, is that since we're not plowing through envelopes, the whole team now has the ability to help the ballot clerks do end-of-night counts. As opposed to, yeah, look at, oh, applause. Brenda's like, yes! Means I'm not going to be the one holding us up at 11 o'clock, and I know.
I'll be right back, I gotta make
Sure.
sure the printer.
No sorting, like
There's no sorting of envelopes because there are no envelopes. And yes, we're going to get into what we're doing with all the ballots certainly in a few minutes. But yeah, the whole team can actually help count ballots and sort that out. Okay. Yes.
You'll have a ballot clerk here and a ballot, in other words, the Democrats should only go here, and Republican voters should go here.
Okay, so Vera brings up a good point. There's two ballot clerks. There are two elections taking place. The registrars have decided that either ballot clerk can service either set of ballots.
That's gonna,
It does turn this into a bit of a dance back here, right? Because there's a lot of collisions that take place. I was saying before, I think what we should probably do is sign everybody up for dance lessons because there's a lot of waltzing that goes on back over here. If it becomes problematic, I don't see this being a huge turnout election. And I don't know what the distribution is going to be between parties. If it's 50-50, yeah, you can service, each person can take half the group, right? But if for some reason one party shows up more than another, yeah, help each other out, keep the line moving. And it really is sort of a communicative type of thing of, work to make sure work together.
and it's the same thing for the checkers too. The checkers check.
Checkers can check in anybody.
Democratic checkers.
We don't have Democratic checkers and Republican checkers.
I'm just trying to say that way you avoid giving the wrong party ballot, mistakes will happen more if you don't.
If you can separate it that way and the flow of electors makes sense to do it that way, it's really up to the moderator at that point or the registrars. If you're getting about a 50-50 balance of parties, of people in each party that show up, then that might make sense. I don't know what my crystal ball is really cloudy on this one as far as how many people are going to show up in each party on each day. In our last primary, we had a couple days of like 50 people that showed up. That's not going to be confusing. Hopefully that won't be confusing. During the general election, where there was a line down the hallway, we didn't have that type of problem anyway, but I know the ballot clerks were like running into each other. So yeah, any suggestions you have to make it easier, let's work it out on the day of. Barbara?
Yeah, because if you let it go the way it's been going, they sort of look for their party. And they kind of separated themselves before when I was ballot.
Oh, did they? Okay.
They did.
Great.
They saw Democrat and they saw Republican. They were,
Yeah.
placing
Yeah.
themselves accordingly.
Right. We want to make it as flexible as possible. There's nothing that says Republicans have to give a ballot if they're a Republican. We want to make it as flexible as possible. If in the morning a bunch of one party shows up and in the afternoon a bunch of another party shows up, we've got two ballot clerks back there, one from each party. Help each other out. Let's keep the line moving. Let's make this a good experience for the electors. Just as long as they get the right ballot, right? And if you do see there's a problem, let's catch that early on. We've talked about some technology that could possibly fix it. I'm not going to go into it. Okay, anyway. Okay, so we've talked about completing the ballot clerk's worksheet and then the end-of-night reconciliation. The ballot clerks participate in that as well because they have to fill out the form that you guys are all looking at, that big wide form. You may wonder why I didn't have the checkers print out a form or sign anything. It's because it comes straight out of the state system. the moderators will print that one page that you may have seen if you've done this in the past. How many people checked in, what their precincts are, so they can compare that report to what the ballot clerks have. Okay. I'll go into a bit of detail about the ballot clerk's worksheet. It is the same as it was last year. The idea here is to document how many of each ballot style were handed out by the ballot clerks, how many spoiled ballots were returned, and then you use that worksheet for the end of night reconciliation. There's a few sections in here about like emergency ballots. If you aren't issued emergency ballots, don't worry about that section. If you are issued emergency ballots, you will be told these are emergency ballots. I've never issued any, but it could happen, so we have to leave a line item there. And at the very end of the day, remember when you're documenting how many ballots are left for each one of these boxes, you're communicating with the ballot clerks for tomorrow, because they're going to check those numbers to make sure that they're the same. Yeah, I think kind of covered all of that. Basically, we're just filling out the lines, doing a bunch of math. I think we had a focus group at the end of the last election talking about how this could be changed. There were a few minor changes. I think the letters have been changed, but I think it's really very, very similar. So that's basically the ballot clerk's job in a nutshell. Once we've issued them a ballot, we send them to the privacy booths. We track abandoned ballots. We talked about that. We track spoiled ballots. And then we can calculate how many ballots we've issued either through the difference from the morning to the evening or to the using the affidavit cards, or a combination of both. And I guess that's pretty much it. And yeah, I think you will have. So the elector now goes and they've marked their ballot. And now they're going to go to the tabulator tender. And it's an actual tabulator tender this time, because there's an actual tabulator. The tabulator tender is going to thank the elector for voting and directs the elector to place their ballot in the ballot box. The tabulator tender doesn't do that for them, right? They place it in the ballot box. If for some reason the tabulator has an issue, and I'm going to go into those issues in a second, the tabulator tender can help them understand what that issue is. And then once the ballot is submitted in some way, they issue the elector an I voted sticker. So I said tabulator could have a problem. Oh, by the way, the tabulator tender's job in EV is exactly the same as it is at the polling locations now. In the past, when we had the ballot receptacle guardians, they were different. It's a very different process. Now it's exactly the same. The tabulators give you basically 3 types or 4 types of bad ballot. A blank ballot will cause an error. If someone puts a blank ballot in, it'll tell you your ballot is blank. If you have overvoted, an overvote is where in a certain contest you're allowed to vote for 1 person, but you voted for 2 or 3. That's an overvote. It'll alert the elector to that. If for some reason the ballot contains an unreadable mark, and that's the term the tabulator will use, an unreadable mark, it'll reject or not reject, it'll hold the ballot and say, do you want to process it as is? An unreadable mark often happens when somebody doesn't fill in the bubble, but they decide to check the name, or they circle the name, or they draw a line down the party that they want to vote for. The tabulator will go, hey, this is weird, let's take a look at this. And then finally, the last one is what we call a wrong ballot style. If for some reason someone were to go to a polling location or go to another town and take a ballot and bring it in and try to submit it into our tabulator, it'll go, hey, I don't even understand this. And it'll tell you that it's not programmed for this ballot. So if someone were to show up at a polling location from last year and take their ballot from last year. I don't know why they would do that. It'll just give you an error. Obviously, any errors, you can always call the moderator. The moderator can help you understand what they are. But in short, if for the first 3, the option is pretty much always the elector can submit the ballot as is, and we can ask them, hey, do you want to submit this? Are you sure you want to submit this? Okay. One of the plus sides of these tabulators is once the ballot is inserted into it, we can't see the ballot, so we don't have to worry about privacy folders at this time. We can look over the shoulder, we can see what the error is, and we can ask them, do you want to return the ballot so that you can fix it, go spoil it, and get a new ballot and re-vote, or do you want to submit it as is? They make the decision. They're the one that pushes the button to return the ballot or to submit it. The tabulator tender doesn't do that for them. It's the elector's decision to do that. We can guide them. Yes, Barbara?
Remember, we had a strange situation where someone left with a ballot on one day, filled it out, and returned it on
Yep.
another day?
Yep,
How would we be able to detect something like that and fix it?
we can't. Yep,
We've got some special searching routines. We'll x-ray them and see if they've got a ballot.
yeah. Right. We got ballot sniffing dogs at the door. I don't know. Ooh, I think I just found a new business model. Ballot sniffing dogs. No, you can't.
But look, in the presidential 2 years ago, people coming in and out, the lines were all over the place. You'll be able to keep track of the people more often. They're not coming that fast, so you see somebody going out the
Yeah.
door that's got a ballot and didn't go by you got a better chance of catching it.
Yeah. And yeah, but to your point, if you're a tabulator, tender, or a demonstrator, please be aware that no one's supposed to leave the polling location with a ballot. So if you see someone trying to walk out with a ballot, flag them down, flag the moderator, whatever you have to do to alert someone, because they're not supposed to leave. Once that ballot exits this door, it's technically void. Am I correct? So, yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think we did have 1 or maybe 2 people that returned their early voting ballot like days afterwards. And will something weird like that happen? Probably. Could we end up with more ballots one day or less ballots or less? Will the tabulator be +1 one day or -1? It could be. We're going to figure that out as we go. So.
What's the wording that says when it accepts it? Because I think it's good for the ballot clerk to say to the elector, wait for it to say, I got it. You know what I
Ballot
mean?
accepted. It says ballot accepted, I think.
Yeah. 'Cause-
The little clock runs and says the name of the voter.
Because we had people leave the voting place before it was converted, and it didn't.
It takes about
So-
3 or 4 seconds.
So if they just say every time, wait for it to say,
Thank you for voting. Your ballot has been counted.
okay, so you're waiting
Yeah.
to
So is it
make
okay
sure
if the tabulator kind of doesn't thank them and just
Yeah.
waits for the tabulator?
Yeah.
as long as you're thanked.
As long as someone thanked, the computer thanked you, and the person thanked you, and the ballot clerk has thanked you, everybody's thanked you. Your ballot has been counted. Right.
These are party primaries.
Right.
Who votes in a party primary?
Yeah, yeah.
Typically people that have been around and voted before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, there can be a few new people and stuff, but generally turnout is low. It's the regulars. They're much less likely to do that, although they may just leave everything sticking in and go.
Right, yes, and then,
You know, but also it's hard to make a mistake when there's only one race and 2 people.
right.
You can. I'm sure somebody will, but it's hard.
Right. In our municipal election last year, when there was 85 people on the ballot, and there was pick 4 out of a field of 20, and pick 3 out of a field of 15, and pick 2 out of a field of 10, and that was a ballot that had a lot of spoiled. They had a lot of spoiled ballots. I'm sorry. Question?
Are there any questions on this ballot? It's just
It's there's one contest on each ballot.
On each ballot.
On each ballot. There's no questions, there's no, it's one okay. Which, by the way,
There's only one on the party ballots, and I'm not confused.
if you are a ballot clerk,
One race, two people.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully,
Okay.
again, I'm not trying to say party
Okay, so Ken, if I could just make one point. If you are a ballot clerk, these ballots look almost identical. They have one contest on them with two candidates in both ballots. The ballots are not different. We tried to put the letter R and the letter D on them because they look so similar. The only way you can tell is by looking at the center section right here. The center section where it says Democratic primary or Republican primary. So if you're a ballot clerk, please note that is the only way you can tell. We tried to put an R and a D on them so it would be obvious. I will show you the mock-ups. We had it laid out. And the state would not let us do it. So. And don't get Stuart started. No.
When they show up, they rarely know their precinct, okay?
Yeah.
They're here to vote early. I mean, they can see it on the label, but they rarely have it in their head. But they do know what party they're in. They're here for a primary.
Yeah.
And they see a great big R and they're a Democrat, they're probably gonna notice. So it would have prevented them getting the wrong ballot.
Or
Vice
you look at
versa,
the
obviously.
candidates and go, boy, these
Well, the candidates are different. There's two different contests, right? One is for governor and one is for fourth Congress. So the candidates are, they're very different, but it's one contest with two candidates. So if you just glance at the ballots,
just know they're gonna vote for both candidates because they couldn't make up their mind.
that is their prerogative to vote for both candidates. Okay. Okay.
Who's gonna show up if they have
If you're given a Democratic one, but you're given one at 37A instead of B, in those cases so we find out at the end of the day.
You find out at the end of the day, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, what would happen in the worst case scenario if somebody came up with a 137A card, but they were by mistake given a 137B ballot?
Of the correct party.
The right party but the wrong ballot.
Right.
So yeah, we would discover that at the end of the night when we did our accounting, okay? And when I get to where the tabulator comes up, the tabulator will tell you by precinct
Right.
how many you issued. This is at the discretion of the registrar and the moderators, but to be fair, if you got the right party, it's the same contest. It doesn't affect the outcome of the election, but it is at the discretion of the registrars to make that call as to how it's handled. It doesn't affect the outcome of the election. It just affects the accounting.
It's voter intent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, yeah. Good question. Okay. Tabulator tender. If a ballot jam is detected, the point here is only the moderator can clear a ballot jam. The point to make note as you're calling the moderator is, was the ballot counted or not? The tabulator will tell you, a ballot jam is detected, the ballot was counted. The ballot jam was detected, the ballot was not counted. Give that information to the moderator when they're clearing the ballot jam. They have the keys, they have the training, they know how to clear the ballot jams. In the event that someone says, oh no, I filled out that ballot correctly, I want this ballot counted, or in the event that someone is in a rush and throws their ballot at the tabulator and they run out the door, which happens on occasion, or someone submits the ballot to the tabulator and leaves and it gets kicked back. Basically, the only recourse there is, since we know that there was voter intent, is to take the ballot and to put it in the auxiliary bin. And then the moderator will resolve it at the end of the night. So any ballot that hit the tabulator, that touches the tabulator, will go in the auxiliary bin if it can't be read by the tabulator. Any questions about that? I know historically there's been some. Okay.
Supposed to stop them from getting out the door.
Yeah, yeah,
If you can.
yeah, if you can. But I worked an election in Fairfield this year, and there were people who literally threw their ballot at the tabulator and ran out. They were in a rush. All you could do is put that in the.
Usually you're close enough to stick.
Usually you can yell at them down the hall, but there was someone yelling down the hall, "Hey, stop, we didn't count you." They're like this, you know. I don't know what was going on in their life, it's not my position. Put it in the auxiliary bin. It touched the tabulator.
The line should be short, so maybe they got it for 4 or 5 seconds, you would hope.
Yeah, yeah, but some people just see it, get it pulled, they see the ballot get pulled in, and then they're out. They don't wait for the response. Okay, so that's the tabulator tender. And so, okay, so assistant registrars. So we've sort of gone through the whole process of issuing ballots. Assistant registrars can check in electors. If things get busy, you can just act like a checker because you have the technology sitting at your laptop. You're also responsible for curbside voting. I'm going to go into a little more detail about curbside voting because there's a few changes to that. You can update elector registrations within some guidelines. I'll get into a little more detail about that. And of course, you interface with the registrars when questions like, hey, this person, what were the questions that came up before? This person wants to change parties. They're moving from Westport, but they say they've lived here for so long. You know, any questions like that that come up, interface with the registrars and ask what to do if you don't know for sure. Curbside voting is roughly the same. Someone can come in and say, hey, I have someone in the car that needs curbside voting, or they can call the phone number listed on the sign in front. That phone will ring. The moderator has a phone. Each polling location has a phone. Early voting has a phone. When that phone rings, the moderator will send 2 people out to the car wherever they happen to be. There is a designated space for curbside voting. I believe that we're saying that there's 1 person from each party goes out to curbside. Even if we know they're a Democrat or we know they're a Republican, we still send people from each party out just to make sure it's clear, just make sure it's impartial. So 2 poll workers will go out. Poll workers will bring the ID back to the checker station where the checker will check them in just like normal. The elector will be issued an affidavit, just like everyone else. Okay? And that affidavit will be brought back to the car with a clipboard. Please remember to bring a clipboard. And an I voted sticker, right? Which they have to sign. Once they sign the affidavit, you can bring the affidavit back, have the ballot clerk issue them a ballot just like normal. We bring out a privacy folder with a clipboard, privacy folder, and the I voted sticker. Bring them a pen. Now there's usually a little kit that's set up with a clipboard and a privacy folder and a pen leashed to it and all that sort of thing, but just make sure you have all your supplies. And then once the ballot is completed, the poll workers bring the ballot back to the tabulator to submit it. Okay. Any questions about curbside voting? Howard.
Just one quick one I have to ask earlier. A police officer will be stationed at the poll location in here, right? How about outside?
I don't think there's an officer assigned to being outside. I don't believe there is.
I've never seen one.
With all the violence that we're experiencing in our country?
Well, we're not really expecting any for this primary. And we still got a cop around, but we're more worried about that for November.
Okay. Okay, a few more points about early voting. There is now by statute a rule that there has to be like a no, that you can't canvass 20, is it 20 feet, 25 feet around?
You can't try, yeah. It's a 20-foot,
Like there's a 75-foot radius around the polling location. There's a 20-foot radius now around the early voting curbside section. So that 20-foot zone will be marked. but it's 20 feet from the person doing the voting. So if there's 5 cars lined up, the zone expands. So we're going to mark 20 feet because it's usually just 1 car, except for, of course, in the presidential election.
Two or three spaces.
But so there'll be 2 or 3 spaces sign up for
And
that.
it's the same space that we used this last.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same space, so it's right out that door there, yeah.
And it gets entered into the moderators, whatever you're calling
The-
it, the log or the diary, right?
The moderator's diary.
Each curbside voting
Yeah,
occurrence.
yeah, they put a note in
I
there.
always have them print an additional label, just put that.
You can do that
Yeah.
if you, yeah, okay. Beth?
So if we're entering the ballot into the tabulator after the person drives off, something rejects, put it in the auxiliary.
Yep.
Put it in the auxiliary bin, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can ask them to wait if you want, but I don't think,
Not a trip out, but
if you, yeah,
Stetson.
yeah, yeah, wear sneakers.
Problem with that, but
Yeah, wear your sneakers, for sure. Okay, what else has changed? Is there, since we're on the new legislation, what's the legislation with the, there's a zone around the polling location for no guns?
200 feet or 250 feet, no guns, somebody in a mask.
No guns,
Yeah,
no,
with some exceptions, because they, obviously, police officers can have them, and when they're on duty, somebody driving by wouldn't, doesn't have to worry they're just passing through in their car.
Right.
Because 200 feet is a pretty good distance.
right. So there is a no guns rule. There's a no guns rule in City Hall already, so it really doesn't change anything there. And you don't have to enforce that.
Also in the schools.
And also in the schools, right, so,
No mask, which was designed really
Right.
for Homeland Security, because if you've got it for medical reasons or if it's religious reasons, you've got to be able to, explain it, so it's not,
So a surgical mask is okay?
yeah,
basically.
yeah. Or if you're wearing a face cover because of religious clothing, that's acceptable as well.
There's no good reason for,
For a ski mask.
no, not this.
Not a ski mask, not a ski, unless they could convince me that it's part of their religion, which if you know some skiers, it is. But it's a little warm out for skiing, it's a little warm out for skiing. You gotta go-
You said that both parties are supposed to be represented in
Yeah,
going out.
yeah.
How do we as moderators or assistant registrars know which party? So we just ask
Which
that?
party, the poll workers? Oh, which party the, oh,
No,
the poll workers are? Well, you're a moderator, you should know who they work for.
we're told that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's on our list that we get.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
You should have a
yeah.
list.
And by the way, yeah,
People that sign in,
yeah, they'll be on the D list or the R list, yeah. The-
Okay, it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
working there
That's
is a
right,
registered
okay,
voter.
got it.
Okay.
That's how you know. Got it.
You would know,
Okay,
yep.
okay.
No, good question, good question.
I didn't
Yeah.
know this.
Yeah, so as far as the no gun rule, by the way, you're not enforcing that, that's what the police officer's for. But if you notice something, if you see something, say something. Yeah, I'm glad everybody did that, wow. Was there a question?
Well, there's a sign-in book for Republicans and a sign-in book for
yes.
Is that what you
When you sign when you take the oath and when you sign your timesheet, there's a book for each group, yes. I think we have 2 moderators, or 1 from each party for each day.
Not sure what we have.
So there's
Moderators at every one,
each
but I
day,
don't know.
yeah.
So, somebody could be in the bathroom too, they can't be there constantly.
Right,
So we're-
right. So if there's a shift change or something, but yes, there's a different book for each group, for each party in this case. It,
So
It-
on
I-
a hard remember is that, you really can't ask somebody, what's your party
That's the
affiliation?
voter.
We just ask, who hired you?
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, because in practice, not everybody who's working the polls is a Democrat or a Republican. Some are unaffiliated, some are independent, some are working families, some are Green Party. So you're working for the Democrats, you're working for the Republicans. So yes. And as far as the going out to curbside is concerned, it's 2 people from different parties. So the idea is you want to have some sort of checks and balances. So it's up to the moderator to make it reasonable and so.
If you want to hide your party preference for some reason or other, I suppose, you've got other people, find 2 different parties.
Okay, so since we're talking about assistant registrars, a couple of quick scenarios, because these always come up. What happens if an elector shows up and they are inactive? They're on the inactive list. What does an assistant registrar do? Well, I'm going to remind everybody you can't change parties on election day, but since they're inactive, we're going to have them fill out a new voter registration card. We're going to update the record in the CVRS based on the registration card and make them active. You can check them in as an assistant registrar, or you can send them to the checker, but since you're there, you might as well do it. Print the label, fix it to the affidavit, and then send them off to the ballot clerk. So if they're inactive and they are a party member in Norwalk, they can be reactivated if they provide the proper ID. If you remember that ID page, left side. I love how everybody's like left side, right side now. So how do we do that? We're going to go to inquiries, voter information, look up the individual by searching, hit change, make whatever changes need to be made, and then hit accept. Okay? This will generate a letter in the system that will be sent to them. Okay, so they'll, later we'll generate all these letters and send out changes so that they can accept it.
Have a card for everyone that they do.
They have to fill out a card. Yeah, they absolutely have to fill out a card. If they're in person, they're changing because we want to get their signature, wet signature, and make sure it's right.
So we're not printing the letters here?
You can print the letter if they want a copy of it, but we have to send another version of it out anyway. So any questions about quick changes? Scenario number 3, name, address, phone change, gender change of an active elector. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Electors cannot change parties on election day, on primary day. Same thing, have the elector fill out a new registration card, update the CVRS, print a label to the affidavit, and then send them off to the ballot clerk. So these are things that are acceptable that you can do during a primary. Okay, scenario 4, the elector is off. They're in an off status. So there's 3 statuses inside the CVRS for electors. There's active, which means you're, active and you can cast a ballot. There's inactive, which means something has occurred that the registrar or the state or something has happened where we want to make sure we come talk to you, or maybe you've moved out of town, you haven't voted in a while, you got caught up in a canvass. Something has happened. We need to get a new registration card. That's inactive. Once someone has been inactive for a number of years, they automatically get turned off. If we get notice that someone has become deceased, they get turned off. If we get notice that someone has moved out to another state, like they tell us, hey, I moved to another state, they fill out a form, we turn them off. So there's a lot of paths where someone can be turned off. It's possible that someone's going to show up and say, hey, I'd like to vote, and you go, oh, they're off. There could be a reason in the CVRS you could look up in the notes. It's generally not very easy to read, but the short answer is if they're off, they would need to re-register. Off is like you are no longer registered. You are off the books. It's like you've been archived, kind of, right? They can fill out a registration card, but they can't register during a primary. Okay? We do have them fill out a registration card, and we send that down to the registrar's office, because that way they've done something and they can vote in the general election.
Smarter to send them to our office anyway, if it happens.
Yeah.
We'll figure out what we can and can't do.
Right. So you can send them down the hall to the registration. They can't cast a ballot today based on this, but they can fill out a card. So send them down to the registrar's office. Next question. Elector wants to transfer from outside of Norwalk. They live in Westport. They just realized they moved last week into Norwalk. They want to vote in Norwalk. That's a new registration. So they can only register in a primary election at the registrar's office. They can fill out a registration card, but that will only be processed after Election Day. So if they're registered somewhere else in the state, they cannot transfer during a primary into Norwalk. It's a new registration. A few points here.
Now, there is a weird situation.
Oh,
Where another town will incorrectly grab them in CVRS. Nothing really stops Mark Hempstead from stealing one of our voters, thinking it's somebody else. It happens once or twice a year. You find them in a presidential or something. That's why you send them to us. We can figure that out, and occasionally we can restore them. They're still here.
Yeah.
They swear they've never moved up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, again, send them to our office.
Yeah, if someone is swearing, like, oh no, I never moved that, I never changed parties, I never did that, send them to the registrar's office, we can sort that out. Because we've seen electors get pulled into another town, have their name, gender, and birth date changed. Like, why didn't you just create a new elector up in Bark Hempstead? I don't know, but they did it. You know, but we have the
They're not
voter
on the
ID.
list at all.
But we have the voter ID, we know what they used to be. So we looked them up and we're like, why did they get pulled in? And, they're like, and somebody new over in some other town just made a mistake. So,
And the registrar's office is open the whole time?
Yes.
Early voting is open?
yes, there's always somebody in the registrar's office. There's always a registrar on duty. So,
There always are these weird,
Yeah.
strange things. You're not likely to see somebody like, but it's good.
okay. Since we're in the CVRS, there's at least one more scenario we're going to get to. You see this red notification at the top of the voter here, where it says the voter must present ID. For those of you who've worked in polling locations, sometimes you'll see an asterisk next to their name, and that has to do with they have to provide some level of identification because they registered online and didn't give a driver's license number, social security number, so there's no link to anything. So this is basically saying, hey, they're registered, but they have to show the assistant registrar that identification on the left side of the form, right? And that's what it's asking for. It wants you to go ahead and get that. So we have them fill out a voter registration card. They are registered. We have them fill out a voter registration card, but we want to make sure to document their form of identification. If they have a driver's license, if they have a social security
They
card.
gotta prove they live in town.
Pardon?
They're really, the asterisk is, they haven't proved they live in Norway.
The asterisk is they have to prove that they live in town. Okay.
They identify themselves. They haven't shown anything that shows they live in Norway. This is the problem. That's what they need to present.
Okay. So please document. There will be a copier here. Tyler, I don't know if I mentioned that. I confirmed that the copier will be here. So we don't have to deal with those, the good copier, not those clunky, well, a copier, but not those awful clunky printers that we used to have to deal with from 1925. Yeah, the copier.
Okay, cool, very good.
Okay. So there is what to do with when there's an asterisk. Yeah.
Don't we have to have ID anyway?
There's two different types of ID, right? I'm checking in ID on the right side of that form, and then there's I'm registering ID, which is a different type of ID that's required.
If you're already registered, when you check in, you just have to prove that you are the person. If you're new, you gotta prove you also have to prove you live in Norwalk with something. Usually it's driver's license or whatever.
I know because most people come in, they show like, driver's license.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
well, that proves both.
Yeah. Driver's license
See,
is
an
standard.
out-of-state ID proves they are who they say they are. Social security card wouldn't necessarily have doesn't have an address.
Right.
So it's different.
Right. I mean, this is my pre-printed ID with my picture on it and my name. You know, it's pre-printed, it has a picture and has my name on it. Doesn't have an address on it, but, you know, so does that work? How about an old hunting license, you know, that has my name and my address on it? You know, like, so most people bring their driver's license. You're absolutely correct.
And
Yeah.
The
It's-
driver's license ID number covers both. We used to get them in the mail, they wouldn't give us their last four of their social, they wouldn't give us their driver's license number. They're still registered, but they never showed they lived in town. If you did it in person, we'd get it, you usually just mail it. You can still do that, so.
Okay, so
What did we have last time, you said, a couple hundred out of 50,000 voters? It's not very.
yeah, there's not many, and for this election, there's like single digits of people with asterisks next to the name. So, so we have them fill out a new voter registration card. We document their form of identification, and now for the bonus question for all the assistant registrars in the room: are the requirements different when you're filling out a registration card between the two parties, the two primaries, right? I'll give you a hint. The Republican ballot contains candidates for a federal office. The Democratic ballot does not contain candidates for a federal office. How would this affect anything in the, okay, so Form ED 681 is the form that you could fill out if you don't have acceptable ID. So if I come in and I claim that I'm Matthew Lane, but I forgot my wallet, normally I could fill out Form 680, ED 681. Because the Republican ballot contains candidates for the federal office, you can't fill out that form. And this is, I bring it up in the assistant registrar's area because you're the ones that'll probably see this. The Democrats can use Form 681 because they don't have a contest at the federal level. So I looked it up, and there are 6 people on the Republican side that have asterisks next to their name. But odds are one of them is going to show up. So just seeing,
Probably have their ID.
and they'll probably have their ID. So it's unlikely this will occur, but
In the event it does,
in the event it does, you now know to look out for this.
in the event it does, what happens to them?
They can't vote.
They cannot vote.
They can't
Okay.
vote.
Yeah, that's another good one to send up and let us.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I understand this.
You really
Yeah.
aren't gonna see it.
Yeah.
it's, I'd almost bet a nickel to say that you're not going to run into this, but,
I bet you 6 cents.
but, oh, he's up in the ante on this one. Okay,
Everybody's got federal office on the ballot in November,
Right.
so there's no difference.
all right. Okay, so also in early voting, we have the IVS system. Usually this is set up ahead of time. Just a quick overview of how to use the IVS system. The assistant registrars are responsible for running the IVS system and helping electors use the IVS system. So if you've ever walked through it, and if you haven't walked through it, please take a moment, especially during this election where there's some downtime, sit down with it, take a blank piece of paper and put it in the printer. It doesn't count how many times you've used it, okay? What matters is that it prints on the ballot that was issued to the elector. So take a blank piece of paper and run it through there. Kind of get used to it a little bit if you've never used it. And this is a good election to do that with. There might be a little bit of downtime. Once it's turned, it'll be turned on once the election starts.
Can you explain what the IVS is?
Oh, sure. Oh, so the IVS system allows individuals with certain disabilities to use a regular ballot, have the computer actually mark the ballot for them. It's a ballot marking system. So they put their ballot in a printer. It has a little wizard that walks you through all the contests and all the candidates. They can then use, they can either see it on the screen, they can use there's a button device that allows them to tap the button a couple of times, and it will walk them through it. There's a puffer that they can breathe into if they can't speak or move their arms. There's all sorts of different devices that allow them to basically print their votes on the ballot. It's very useful for a couple of reasons. First of all, if somebody knows that some people come to use it, there are a handful of people who ask to use it and ask for assistance. What we found is there's some folks that still want to write on their own ballot, but they may be a little shaky, and they're having trouble filling in the ovals. If somebody's spoiled multiple ballots, we'll often ask the assistant registrars or the moderator to say, hey, can we help you fill it out using this system? It's available. We can make it available to anyone who wants to use it. Yes, Barbara?
We had one with multiple contests, like 14 contests.
Yeah.
Multiple candidates that you could select. I just started putting some right on it. After they knocked the second one up, I'm like, come on over here, because it just made it so much easier.
It's easier.
Right. It will not fill out the ballot incorrectly. You won't get an overvote or an undervote, or, well, actually, you could get an undervote, but you won't. It really does help you fill out the ballot correctly. If it's choose 4, it'll only let you choose 4. For this election, it may not be so as big a deal. In November, it may be a little more of a big deal. In a municipal election where the ballots are very complicated, it becomes more important. So, yeah, and I'm just going to let me just go through this. You have to pick the district that you want. In this case, you pick the district and party.
Actually, this time, because we ran the test deck off on that, you don't pick a district because they're all the same.
Oh, okay, so you just pick a party.
It's not programmed to pick your district.
You know, you're right.
And it is programmed to pick the party, even though, because of the way the ballots are printed, it doesn't matter which party you pick. For filling out it'll put the thing in the right place. You just wouldn't be able to pick the right candidate
Right.
without picking the party.
So basically, you just pick the party that you want, and then it'll give you because all the ballots are the same for the party.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It
So,
only matters because the legislature, when they decide how to redistrict, they want to know whether they're getting a lot of good Democratic voters or a lot of good Republican voters or whatever. So they basically protect the incumbents is what happens in Connecticut. But that's the only reason anybody cares. Otherwise, it could be the same ballot for the whole, for either, one ballot for either party. And none of this.
that's true. I mean,
Would save us a whole lot
you
of-
see all of this, there's 2 ballots.
But you do
We-
have to fill out the
right.
right district in November
Right.
because the ballots aren't the same.
Right.
For
Right.
legislators.
Right. So if you think in terms of, we have 3 different ballot styles, to follow up on what he's saying, we have 3 different ballot styles. We have in-person ballots, early voting ballots, and absentee ballots. 2 different parties, 13 precincts. We have 78 unique ballot styles when there's really 2 ballots. So, yeah. And all of that is for accounting. Okay.
It all makes sense in some universe.
Yeah. Okay, so if we're using the IVS machine, most of the individuals who use it know how to use it, but we can assist them. We put the ballot, if we're looking at the printer, we put the ballot face up. And I think I've got a picture of it here. Just like that, face up, facing towards us, put it in. We can use the touch screen. There's earphones with little pads. There's a number pad that can be plugged in. Again, I would suggest if you take some time during this election to learn how to use that. The same rules apply to this as for any other voter. They can always spoil a ballot. The voter has to start over each sequence, so it doesn't save their votes. After it's printed the ballot, you have to start over again. Assistant registrars are responsible for this. And then the assistant registrar can help them take the ballot to the tabulator.
If they need it, some
Yeah.
would obviously blind.
Some can do it, some cannot, right?
So I know they print a report when they start up the IVS at the very beginning.
Yes.
Will they do that once during the early voting process? Or will
We
they
just do it once during the early voting process. We don't do it every day.
Day one?
Yeah.
They'll do that, it'll go in the
Yeah,
log.
unless that's changed? Nope,
No,
okay.
you only have to do it once, but obviously if somebody turned it off, you'd have to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the assistant registrars. Now we're going to move on to the moderator's responsibilities. We've got an hour and 15 minutes. Does anyone need a bio break? Yeah, we want to take 10 minutes. Why don't we take 10 minutes and then come back? Because then there are a few changes to what the moderator needs to do to the tabulator. Ability to use the tabulator instead of envelopes. Effectively, a moderator is in charge on site. They make all the major decisions. If they have any questions, they would escalate to the registrar. They're going to open and close the polls, and they're also going to activate and hibernate the tabulator at the beginning and end of each day. They have to complete the moderator's return. You guys all have a copy of the current moderator's return template. It's effectively the same as it was last year, with a couple of slight changes for the changes that were made due to the use of the tabulator. The moderator directs curbside voting. We talked about that a bit. The moderator also manages translation services. The moderator's given a phone, and each phone has Interpreter's Insight. That's an app on it, and that allows the moderator to translate between English and, 128 languages, 200 languages, and all kinds of different patois and so forth. So we're going to briefly touch on that. And then, of course, we complete the moderator's return each day. Every day gets its own moderator's return. And you have 1 day's worth of moderator's return in your handouts. So let me just start with some of the things that we can get through pretty quickly. Using the translation services, open the app called Interpreter's Insight on the phone. Choose, choose the language. If you don't know what language the elector speaks, have them point to the flag. There's a flag next to each language. So if they're speaking a language you just don't, because I don't speak every language, I don't know what they're trying to say. You can have them point to the flag. When you get the translator on the video call, announce yourself. It is recorded. So say, oh, this is Matthew Lane. I'm the moderator for early voting in Norwalk. I need someone to translate. The last time I used this, the translator said, "What is the patient's name?" I guess they're used to doing other types of medical stuff. I don't know. Let the translator translate. Don't try and figure out what's going on. The one thing I will argue is that it sounds to us like they know stuff about medical. They definitely don't know anything about an election. So any terms like tabulator, assistant registrar, registration form, or anything like that, you have to explain to the translator what these things mean, maybe, if there's no obvious translation form. A registration card in some languages sounds like a certification card or an ID. So understand that they don't speak registrar. They don't speak Connecticut registrars. They just know medical stuff and can translate as best they can. So just be aware of that when you're letting them do the translation. Yeah, question?
Okay, so I have used these language lines in a medical setting.
Okay.
And there's always with two handsets, so that the patient and me could be speaking to the translator at the same time. How do you work it when you just have a cell phone?
I just hold it between us.
I'll put it on speaker.
I put it on speakerphone.
Okay.
Because it's not, there's no HIPAA.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about HIPAA compliance. I mean, this is really, it's provided to us by the state to just let us communicate. I've used it for Spanish and I guess Portuguese once, but I know other people used it for Haitian patois and other languages. There's a huge host of languages there. And if you really just don't know what someone is saying, or you think their English is broken enough where you're not being understood, use the translation service. It's there for you. It's right there on your phone. Question?
Also worth mentioning, if they came with someone who does want to translate for them, like a family member, they can translate, but let's say somebody else in line that they didn't come with, you cannot have that person translate.
Oh yeah, we ran into that. Right, so I'll make sure that gets on. So someone who thinks they speak the language or speaks a little bit of language isn't an official translator. using the app, you get an official translation by someone who's qualified, and it is recorded. So if there's any questions about something being misunderstood, you can go back to it.
Family member, yes.
So a family member, yeah, if somebody, obviously if their spouse is there and they speak the language, they can do that. But you can't just say, oh, hold on, I speak Mandarin, and then it turns out they don't. So, any questions about Interpreter's Insight? Okay. A couple changes about the moderator's return. We're going to start with completing the certificate of opening the polls. You may notice in the upper right-hand corner, I put some little step-by-step reminders on how to turn on the tabulator. We'll get into the details of how to do it, but it's right there on the page that you're going to need it while you're opening the polls. There's a little step-by-step there. It basically certified that you opened the polls. There's another page for the IVS startup sheet. I think it was brought up, do we need to print out an IVS page every single day? And the answer is no. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. We really only need one at the beginning of early voting and one at the end. I believe that's how it's set up. We're going to have the oath. There's 2 pages of oaths in each moderator's return. Please, if you're a moderator, read the oath word for word. Because if you miss a word or you interpret something, just read it. It's just easier that way. This is the official oath, and that way there's no question about it. We're going to have each of the poll workers sign the oath as they check in.
And the 2 oaths are one for each party. That's what you're talking about.
I just have 2 pages here because sometimes there's a lot of people during the course of a day. So we put 2 pages in. Each moderator would have their own return that they could issue the oath to if you do it that way. Everyone has to take the oath. I don't think it matters which book your name is in as long as the poll worker signs that they took the oath. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, Beth?
You are nonpartisan for the day, that's one of the things you're swearing to, so, you get along. I know they're in the other party, you don't trust them,
Right.
you still get along for the day. That's the way
Right.
it works.
I mean,
You guys are all really good at that.
Yeah.
You haven't had any
Yeah.
of those.
If you have a shift change in the middle of the day and one moderator's out to lunch, you still have to get sworn in. The other moderator can swear you in, and you'll just be in the other book.
It's all fine.
Yeah. Yes, Beth?
Yeah, so this is like one of my pet peeves. Could you just emphasize that the things in parentheses are part of it?
Yes, or upon perjury of penalty. Or upon penalty of perjury is part of it. You have to read everything. Yes. So don't not read it just because it's in brackets. Read everything in brackets.
And are there 2 full moderator books at each?
So if there are 2 moderators and they're from different parties, okay, this is a good question. So the question is, are there 2 moderator books, right? So this is a 2-party primary. It's very likely there's going to be 2 moderators, one for each. Jessica, shake your hand.
Not 2 moderators for every location.
Not location, I'm talking early voting. Okay. So, but it's a good question, too, and she was going to correct me on something else, but okay. So, at the discretion of the registrars, they can agree to have 1 moderator per location. In early voting, I believe there are 2 moderators each day. In some of the polling locations, in some cases we have 2 moderators, and in some cases they have agreed to have 1 moderator. So in the case where there are 2 moderators, you'll have 2 books. If you have a moderator and an alternate moderator, which is not the same as having 2 moderators, then you would have 1 book. Does that make sense to everyone? If you have, because it's a 2-party primary, you could have a Republican moderator and a Democratic moderator.
Two separate.
Okay, it's 2 separate, right.
Same place at the same time.
Right, so you could have 2 moderators, 1 for each election, 1 for each party.
2 moderators are scheduled on every day according to what's been sent out so far. Does that mean
There will
is
be
one
2.
for each party and then 2?
What?
1 vote for each moderator.
So one book for each moderator.
And-
You will,
Not assistant.
Moderators that are working for.
if you have an assistant moderator,
Assistant moderator.
okay, yeah, okay, then you would have 2 moderators. You have 2 books,
During early voting. I'm talking about early voting here.
right? But bear in mind, you're both processing the same data, right?
So all the stuff about the codes and everything else and opening this up,
You do it once.
and gets filled out, but you do it once, but it gets filled out in duplicate in each book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're going to get one report for Democrats and Republicans. One slight change is if you're at the polling locations.
Right.
You know how they used to print out 3 tapes?
Right.
It prints 4 now. So that way each moderator can get their own tape. Does that make sense? Okay. Good?
I have a quick question. So early voting, EV here, we have 2 books, Democrat and Republicans, or we're just gonna put it in one? I couldn't hear what the
Oh.
question was up there.
They're going to be exactly the same where there's 2 moderators, right? For early voting, you have to have all the data. You have to have Democrats and Republicans in a book because you have to have all the data in a book. Does that make sense?
Well, you're saying a single book or 2 books?
You can have 2 books, but they're going to have all the data in them.
So
Right.
2 identical books.
Yeah, right. And they check, you're supposed to check each other too, but you don't
Right.
have to, right, I guess. But, so when the report comes out of the tabulator or when the report comes out of the CVRS or when the ballot clerks finish their report, there's going to be a D and an R section. But you're both going to document it, right? You write the numbers in. You just take the report and slide it in your book in most cases, right? You could tape the tape. You got to tape the report. The tape report. Tape the tape into your book.
Right.
It's going to have both, but you know.
But then this page will be identical in 2 books.
Yes, you can
Opening.
make. You can both. Yes, you will both document the same numbers in your book
Okay.
for your purposes, but they better be the same, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's. I mean, if you're documenting different tamper evidence seals on that page, I would like to know that. I would like to know if you have different seal numbers or different results. Yeah, that would be of great interest to the registrar's staff if the results were different between the 2 books. Okay. Okay, so next page that we're on, we run a report that says how many electors checked in. So this is the same report that we've run from the CVRS for a long time. There's a step-by-step written up here on how to get it out of the CVRS. It's basically going to say how many people did we checked in. What's different is sort of what I described before is since we're doing the check-in and return at the exact same time, there's not going to be any of those discrepancies, we hope, between the check-ins and the returns, because it's all just people who checked in. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, so this is basically how to run that report. This.
Everyone knows the total number, not each party anyway.
The CVRS will know which party checked in.
Yeah.
It lists by party, so it would say 137, Republic, where is it, right?
The interim tabulator report. is-
Right.
Just knows how many
Okay.
cards or how many ballots.
Right. Okay. We're going to get the ballot clerk's return. So far we've got who checked in. We're going to get the ballot clerk's return, which we kind of went over, and that's going to tell us how many ballots were issued. Because it's a bit more complicated this year, I have included section 10, which is what I call an end-of-night reconciliation worksheet. Last year, everybody was filling out spreadsheets and writing stuff on sticky notes and asking for blank paper to build a table that looked like this. So I figured, why not just build the table like this in case you want to use it? It seems to make sense to me because we can take the checkers numbers here, we can put the ballots numbers, ballot clerk's numbers here, and we take the report from the tabulator at the end of the night and put it here and see where we're off. It just seems easier than having to ask the tech to get a piece of paper so that we can draw a grid on a piece of paper, because that's what everyone was doing anyway. So, okay, the last 2 pages, this is where we start getting into some slight changes, and I'll slow down here a little bit. Attest that the polls were closed and the ballots were sealed and delivered to the registrar. So, brief overview of what's happening here. The polls close, we ring the bell, we make sure there's no one in the room, no one's running down the hall trying to vote, we make sure everybody's finished casting their ballots. We're not closing the tabulator, we're putting it to sleep. Before we put it to sleep, we want to get a report from it that says how many pieces of paper have been pushed through it. So we're going to have it generate a report for us, and those are the numbers we're going to use on the previous page, and then we're going to put it to sleep. We're going to remove all the ballots from that day. There's going to be a red bin in here, which I can show you. I didn't bring my keys, but do you have keys? Okay. There's a red bin in here that all the ballots are going to be in, which we're used to. We've used these red bins in the past. And we're going to put our morning report, which is kind of like our zero tape, our evening report, which is how many ballots have gone through the thing completely. We're going to put our hand count ballots aside for now. But in the red bin goes spoiled ballots, abandoned ballots, tapes, and affidavits. So
They're not results tapes.
they're not results tapes. You can't get results out of the system until you close it, which you can't do. So if you watch the video that I sent out, there's one slide that says, here's what belongs in the red bin. And I'll get to it in a minute. So it's ballots, spoiled ballots, abandoned ballots, affidavits, and tapes. On this page, we're going to seal up the red bin, and we're going to take it to the town clerk or registrar, depending on who's available that day.
Yeah, it ends up going to the town clerk for safekeeping. Nobody bothered to tell them they had to be here till the end. So.
Right. So the town clerk will ultimately be responsible for storing it. However, the town clerk may not be available because they may be closed. So we have to store it in the interim. Overnight. So that's generally what's going to happen. Can you turn that off? Oh. How did I turn? Oh, I forgot to delete the. Okay, thank you. So if you watch the video, you'll hear that. You may have guessed I recorded this in PowerPoint. Just an overview of the tabulators. We cannot print election results from the tabulator until the polls have closed on election day. Every single day, we're just going to be accumulating all of these ballots and the ballot counts in the system. Okay? Right, so when we print the report, we'll have ballot counts. You'll know that here's how many ballots we got, but you won't necessarily know who the votes were for, okay? We'll walk through how to close out the election, how to close or sleep, hibernate the tabulator. Again, did anyone not get those links yesterday that is a moderator or assistant registrar? Okay, I would encourage you, you know, when you're sitting around having your evening tea or something like that, to take the 5 or 10 minutes to watch each one. It really is a step by step by step, and given the fact we have like half an hour here left, you know, I will walk you through it as quickly as I can, but I don't know that we have a lot of time for it. And yes, Stuart or I will probably be here for the first couple of days. Stuart wrote the procedure for the state on how to do this, by the way, so. He's probably right. The bottom line,
Write it up.
we had written the procedure because we needed to do it, and once the state saw it, they said, hey, can we use that? Basically they got us to do it for free.
That way, at least we know what we're doing is legal, so.
Yeah, exactly. It gives us a little bit of time. Okay, so just another point about what is transferred. I said that we put spoiled ballots and absentee ballots, or spoiled ballots and abandoned ballots, and the tapes and the affidavits and the actual tabulator counted ballots all end up in the red bin, sealed and shipped off. But what goes outside of the red bin is hand counts. If for some reason there are some ballots that need to be hand counted, right, they have unreadable marks, for whatever reason, they will go in the hand count envelope and will be delivered on top of the red bin. They're outside of the red bin. The reason they are transferred outside of the red bin into our storage facility is that the ballot box itself, the red bin, is going to go into storage, and we may not see that until the 2 weeks after the election. But those hand counts need to be delivered to the counting team on election day to be hand counted, because you can't hand count them during early voting. You have to wait until election day to hand count them. So that's why there's really two pieces. There's the red bin and the hand counts. If you don't have any hand counts, please put a 0 on the hand count envelope and submit it, so that we know that there's 0 hand counts.
Forget our favorite number on one of those envelopes is 0.
Right.
Least favorite number is no number. Then it's an empty envelope, and we don't know whether they all fell out, or you forgot to put a number on
Right.
it.
Exactly.
0 tells us.
0 says
For every day.
there's an envelope for every day. There's a spoiled ballot envelope for every day. There's an abandoned envelope ballot for every day. They all need to make their way down the hall at the end of everything.
And they all need numbers.
And they all need numbers. Exactly.
Hopefully they're all 0.
Well, spoiled and abandons happen. It's, this is what goes on. And hand counts happen as well. I mean, there's some people who just, they
About the next
they
step,
can all
we're
be
trying to gather 7 envelopes, there's only 3 of them, one of them's empty.
Right.
And what do we know practically?
yeah. Yeah, so,
7 envelopes that say 0,
right.
tells
So
the whole story.
0 is a number. It's an important number, just as important as 1 or 2 or 12. So it matters. Nothing is a mystery that needs to be resolved. And we hate mysteries during the election periods. Yes?
Hand count means auxiliary bin.
Okay, so good question about the auxiliary bin. So, okay, let me ask I think I get the question here. So when you're closing or shutting down the tabulator, before we do that, we're going to open up the auxiliary bin and see what's in the auxiliary bin. The first thing in the auxiliary bin is going to be the 0 tape, but then there's going to be whatever ballots were put in there over the course of the day. In some cases, people may have just been in a rush, the tabulator was having a problem, whatever it is, some of those ballots can make it through the tabulator. Please submit all of those ballots to the tabulator. If the tabulator can read them, the state ruling right now is let it read them. If it cannot read them, it's an unreadable mark. Those are the hand counts. So as a result, what we're hoping for this year is that since the electors will be submitting their ballots to the tabulator, and we know that we can put basically everything through the tabulator, there should be very few hand counts. In practice, in the last 2 elections, since we've been using these tabulators, there have been very few hand counts, like single digits. So there should be, we're expecting few, but things happen. We've seen people write political statements across their, and those they can't be read, so they're hand counted. But we expect the number to be low. I think in our last primary we had 4 or something throughout the whole city, or 6, it was relatively low. So opening the tabulator, I'll just kind of quick move through this. Again, I'm going to lean on this video. I would expect you all to watch the video, please. Did it just change? Okay. So when we first arrive in the morning, we're going to check the tamper evidence seal numbers on the tabulator. It's our job when we close it to make sure that we've sealed the tabulator and locked it down. It's our job in the morning to make sure that the seals that were applied the night before are accurate. So there's going to be a little bit of flipping back to the previous day worth of moderators' returns. So that's why I say when you're filling out your moderator's return, you're not just communicating to the registrars. In some cases, you're communicating to the moderator for the next day. So we're going to check all 6 tamper evidence seals. We're going to break the seals that we need to. So to open the case, you have to break a seal. The auxiliary bin has a seal on it. We're going to break that so that we can put our start putting our tapes in. And then we're going to unlock and open the tabulator to power the system on. It should power on as soon as we open it. Okay? When it powers on, it'll look like this. It'll ask you for an election code, which I typed in wrong. Okay. And it should tell you, hey, the election is already open, right? Which it will be, except for the first day. The very first day is going to be a little bit different. It'll automatically print some tapes for you, and you'll just go right in. Okay. Configuration report. Okay. Where it says, hey, this device has already been opened for voting, where we would normally say, hey, let's just go reopen the polls, we're going to hit report options and do a daily ballot status accounting. Okay? So it's just a ballot status, how many ballots have gone through it. We can set with all the defaults and hit print. We still need 3 tapes or 3 reports. So we're going to hit print 3 times. And this will give us a high-level overview of how many ballots have gone through the device. Okay? Same thing as in the past, 3 tapes. One goes in the auxiliary bin, stays with the ballots. The other one goes outside on the wall of the community room. And the other one goes in your moderator's return. It's the same process there. And yeah, the wall outside the community room is probably going to have a whole bunch of tapes on it. Basically, there are individuals in the community who are very concerned about, people submitting ballots out of band, and I think we expect people to be checking those numbers. So they want to see that if you've got 20 ballots at the close of Monday, you have 20 ballots on the start of Tuesday. Yeah, it will be very cool. We never had that. We never had that. We couldn't do that. We really couldn't. We didn't have tapes. And I'm not sure, is that statute or is that something we decided to do? The hanging of the tapes, hanging tapes out for the.
Well, these tapes are short,
Yeah.
so it'll work. The problem with results tapes, particularly say last year,
Yeah.
is it's gigantic
Yeah.
and long because it has all the precincts and all the.
Yeah. So now let's talk about closing the election. Make sure all electors have cast their ballot. I put this in here. We don't have same-day registration, but if there was same-day registration, make sure that nobody's dropped an early voting ballot in the same-day registration bin or the same-day registration bin. Ended up, God dang it.
No same-day registration.
There's no same-day registration, so it's not.
We're going to use the same training tape.
Yeah.
Plus whatever we have to do to fix it to make it.
Same PowerPoint.
And the same PowerPoint with the date change, so it's inaccurate again next year. Now, check to make sure the auxiliary bin is clear. Please, please, please check to make sure the auxiliary bin. I say this for every time I'm training. I've seen people forget it, and then they end up looking, spending all this time going, we're 5 ballots off, when they were sitting in the auxiliary bin. please remember to check the auxiliary bin, take everything in the auxiliary bin and put it through and submit it to the tabulator. If the tabulator can't accept it, let it do so. And then, of course, announce to the room to tell them that the election is closing. We're going to print closing report tapes, which is exactly what I just showed you, right? We're not going to hit the close button. For those of you who have worked in the polling locations, you know, you break this seal, you open the door, and you push the button that says close polls. You don't have to do that, okay? You just have to go to the menu. There's a tools menu up there. Again, it's in the video. Please watch the video. If you have trouble with anything in the video, contact me, okay? So you're just going to go to the menu and get back to that report screen and say print reports, just like you did in the morning. And then it'll ask you, okay, you're done. Do you want to turn the thing off? And you go, yeah, I want to turn it off. And it just puts it to sleep. So packing and securing the counted ballots, affidavits, hand count ballots, and tapes all go in the red bin. And then we're going to lock and close the tabulator again for the next day. We want to make sure all 6 seals are applied. There's a spot for it in your moderator's return to mark where all the closing seals are. Half of them may be the same as they were in the morning because you didn't break them all. So here's the slide that I want everybody to memorize if you're a moderator. The red bin should contain the tabulator counted ballots, the elector signed affidavits, which are going to be found back here, right? We're going to pull all these affidavits out after we've checked them all. We're going to put them in with the ballots in the red bin. Any questions about that? Nope? Okay, good. Spoiled ballot envelope, the abandoned ballot envelope, and the opening and closing tape reports from the tabulator. And all of that is going to be sealed, and unless we get audited or recounted, they will stay in that bin forever. Forever. We hope to never open that bin ever again. But if we have an audit, we will be opening that bin. And we will know that everything will be in that bin that we possibly could think of.
But if we're gonna get audited, we want it in the primary where there aren't very many ballots.
Okay. So just a quick overview. Are there any questions about that? I kind of breezed through that, but again, there's a lot of information in that video. Russell said it was dense. I'm sorry, but it's a step-by-step of fill this form out, go to this page, go turn this page back to this page. I think it is not lost on us that in simplifying things for the electors, they have made it slightly more complicated for the poll workers. That's okay. We can handle it. We're Norwalk. Yeah. Yeah. Bring it. Bring it. Yeah. We write the procedures for them. Okay. Okay, so just a quick conclusion. All ballots have been submitted to the tabulator, printed closing tapes. We distributed those around. We powered and locked the tabulator, logged all the seals in the moderator's return. We're ready to deliver the ballots. Right there. Okay. And we've delivered the ballots to the town clerk or the registrar, as the case may be, and we completed all of the section in this day's moderator's return.
That's every day.
And that's every day. We have to do all of this every day, referencing the previous day where appropriate. Are there any questions about that process?
Now notice at this point, no results taken.
And there's no results tapes.
Right.
Results tapes are only printed after the closing of the polls on election day. So at 8:01, we're eagerly waiting to print them.
So even on the last day of early voting,
Nope.
it gets.
Just like this, exact same closing procedure.
On that Sunday.
And that machine will get taken into a secure room, and we're done. And then on Tuesday
At 8 p.m.
at 8 p.m., we're going to push print results.
Are we powering it off, or are we just sleeping it on the last day?
You're sleeping it, well, sleeping involves powering it off, but yeah. But we're not closing the election until Election Day.
Turn it on, close the election.
Yeah. For those of you in the counting environment, and I don't think there's going to be many people in there, there's like a 4-step process where you receive the tabulator